Okay, we're going to call to order the Town of Fontana Dam Town Council meeting Tuesday, December the 15th, 2021. It's actually Wednesday, December the 15th.
Oh, it is.
2021. Just reading mindlessly there. And we're going to call to order at 5:35. Present, we have Rob Hardy, Tiffany Duke, John Hodgson, Delary Rogers, and we also have a couple of prospective town council members in Brandon Jones and Lacie McBee. Thank you for being here, y'all. And we got Charlie from the paper back there.
Hi.
Howdy. With that, we don't have any modifications to the agenda. Taking motions for that.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as read.
John, motion as read. I think everything looks good. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
On his approval of November minutes, did not add in the closed session minutes. I sent those out to you guys, so I hope you read them over because I didn't print them out. We need to approve also the closed, I need to have that closed session minutes.
Okay, so that would be as amended now, John.
I'm gonna make a motion for that.
No, we're good. I'm just gonna pull this up real quick.
I mean, generally it's included in November minutes, so I just wanted to make sure that that was approved, acknowledged and approved as well. And we did have closed session.
I looked at it a little bit earlier. You want to take a look at that real quick?
Yeah.
All right. So, move to the approval of the November minutes, including the closed session minutes. Discussing personnel. We don't have any modifications to any of those. I will entertain a motion on that. You want to make a motion to
Make a motion to approve the
November minutes
November minutes.
and the closed minutes?
And the closed session minutes.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. This is all of our sort of Robert's rules. You know, you gotta kind of, everything's gotta have a motion. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's fairly straightforward though. It's not too much.
I am putting together a manual too that I will give you guys at the next meeting that kind of breaks down how governmental organizational meetings work and what your role is as a board member, etc. So that, I mean, I really should have done this a long time ago for everybody that comes in new. It just will give you a brief overview of how this is all structured and kind of give you a leg up on what to expect. And it just lets you know, if you've never done anything in government before, you know, it's all brand new. You just don't know. So this will just give you an idea of how each thing goes.
And we've got some stuff today that's gonna be not the norm. We're kind of handling some the election stuff, the audit stuff. Those are things we typically don't have to address during a meeting. But with that said, public comment, we've got Brandon and Lacie here. We're going to be appointing them a little later. So they're public for now, and they're soon to not be public.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, Charlie, you got anything to comment on back there as out of the public?
I mean, as I always remind y'all, papers going out, so grab you a copy.
Get it while it's hot.
Exactly.
All right, so moving to election results there.
So with the election results, of course, we hold one over here in Fontana because that is a requirement. And we had Rob Hardy was voted in again as the mayor, and John Hodgson and Tiffany Duke as council members. So we just need to acknowledge that and do an acceptance of that.
And just as a detail, I think there were 3 voters.
Yeah, and it was the 3 that.
Voters. So it was us 3 voting for us 3.
Coming
Yeah.
strong.
So
That was one
Yeah.
of the lowest.
at least we had some turnout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe before the next one, we need to maybe get out and,
Campaign.
Yeah.
or just
available.
push people to get out and vote.
At least, well, but the thing with it is you have to be registered to vote
Right.
here. And that's, most people that live here are not registered to vote here. You know, they don't change their voter registration here. So that's why you have a low turnout. If there was any way that we could get around it, we would, but there's not. You know, you have to hold the election, so, cause it's a very large expense for 3 people, you know, or 5 people, or, I mean, when you don't have, a lot of people that are registered to live in the town of Fontana Dam, it can be a big expense that would be best served in other ways, but, you know, it's what you gotta do, so.
Hey, when are they expecting our call?
As soon as we get there, yeah, yeah.
Because I didn't know if we could maybe appoint Lacie and Brandon. You know, if we could, can we do that first?
Well, if you want to, yeah, we can do that.
I mean, that way that frees John up.
But they're not going to be, like the stuff that we're going to be talking about with them, they're not going to be signing off on that because it was for last year. So it's not going to make any matter whether they are on council with this,
Sure.
through this. So,
But we need to have that done in case John has to roll.
No, he's all right.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
yeah, so we,
Okay.
yeah, we did that.
Okay, well, we can go ahead and do the audit then.
Okay.
Audit report. I think the folks who did, every year we have to do an audit. Our fiscal year runs July to June. So the break point is there at the end of June. So we have to develop a budget. And with COVID, it's been more challenging to do that. And then we have to hire a company to come in and do an audit for the town as well as the TVA. We just have to make sure everything's, you know, done according to spec, you know, whatever the state specs are. So, and then, you know, we normally don't, they give us a report, and when we have any questions, I think they've maybe changed the standard with the LGC, which is the local government commission who oversees us. They've added some stipulation, I suppose, that, you know, we have to have a call with the auditors and have them, you know,
The
give us
biggest
a
thing is
summary.
because of our water, wastewater, our fight, we do not have anything in place for depreciation. That is the main thing.
Because we lost so much.
Because, well, no, it's just that we have the resort pays everything at the end of each month. So we don't have anything to set aside for depreciation, say, for repair work of something at the water.
We don't have a rainy day fund.
Yeah, for that.
Because,
We have no other business or customer.
and ideally, so the way it works now is, the resort contracts our operators, Dennis, Tim, and right now it's Carrie. So we've got 3 water plant operators, and the resort pays those bills in lieu of getting a bill for whatever water they use. We can't really send them a bill. We can't even do it normally because we have so much water loss.
Hey, Holly, it's Zell. I'm going to put you on speaker, and we're in the midst of our meeting here, okay? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah? Can everybody hear?
Yes. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Yes. So I'm Rob. I'm the mayor. We're sitting here with Tiffany Duke and John Hodgson, who are the elected officials, and then we've got a couple more folks here, Brandon Jones and Lacie McBee, who are going to be appointed today to be fill our other 2 seats. Just so you're aware who's on the call here, and Zell as well.
And then Charlie as well with the paper.
Yeah, Charlie with the papers here, open meeting and whatnot.
Okay, great. And I don't know, Sarah, did you do any intro, like about giving out the information?
Not really, Holly. I just, you're going to do a better job at explaining it than what I can. So I do have a printout of the identified financial performance indicators of concern. And then I printed out the representation letter, and that's only 2 things I really printed out. So probably if you address the indicators of concern, this is going to be the main thing, I think.
I agree. This is a new thing that local government commission is watching this year, and they are coming up with what they consider financial performance indicators. And then some of them, if they are in concern level, they report, and I don't know, is that one of the ones you printed out, or no? I'm sorry, Hillary.
Probably, let's see.
10-page one?
No, this is the one I got is like the indicators of concern that we signed, that, right.
Okay, so, in a nutshell for you, the local government is looking at the unrestricted cash balance in the water system fund. And in comparison to your expenses, the operating expenses. And for the year under audit, the percentage is lower than what they would like. They would like that percentage to be 16%, and the town came in at 2.97. Now, so that's flagged for their response. However, for the last 3 years, that percentage is steadily increasing, which I think for the last 2 years being a pandemic, it's a very good job for the town. So even though local government is coming in and they are wanting to see that percentage higher, yes, we would all like to see the percentage higher. However, I do want to commend the town that the percentage is going in the right direction as opposed to going the opposite direction. So when you have a performance indicator of concern, local government is wanting a response to make sure that the board members are aware that this is a percentage that you should be looking at, and a response submitted back to them. So what we've done is we've prepared basically the template response that you can edit, look at, change, whatever you would like to do. But just that we as the auditors are making sure that you as board members are aware that this is a percentage that the local government commission is looking at.
Okay.
And Holly, and just so aside, I had told Holly that for us, how we bill is at the end of each month. You know, we have no way to increase that to come up with this, but everything that we spend down, if something breaks down there, the resort has to pay for it because that's the way the system's set up. They're our only customer. So if something at the water plant goes down, they would have to bring that back up in operating order because it affects them directly anyway. You know, so having said that, of course, yes, we'd like to have the money in there to where we would have that nest egg if something happened, but we have no way of getting it there because we have no other customers.
Well, and there's challenges to billing in a normal manner because our losses on the water side are so great. We couldn't charge, the rate we would have to charge would be huge. So the cost model is pretty much where we're at right now. We're hoping to possibly start moving in a more traditional direction this year, and hopefully that would, you know, maybe be reflected in this coming year. That might even be a bit too soon to say for sure, but we've got some ideas and some dreams. We'll see if we can implement them.
I like it. And I'm hoping that local government will like that as well because, and that's a second indicator was basically if they would have these percentages in place last year, the percentage for last year, hold on for a second, I will tell you what that was, and no, it was 1% even last year, and this year's 2.97. So again, that's to me pretty good growth.
Yeah.
So because that percentage was less than 16% last year for last year's audit, you were put on what's called the unit assistance list. And that means that local government is just going to be watching your percentages to make sure that they don't dip in, dip lower, and they're going to be contacting you probably just to touch base is what I'm understanding. Again, this is all new for everyone,
Right.
so we're sort of learning as they go. They've actually not even completed the updates to their website to instruct us what we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to basically be informing the board. So,
And this is on.
what we can do.
It's also should be noted too that this was done with the resort closing down and us having to operate on existing funds during a pandemic. So we had growth even with all of those challenges. So
Yes, and the year before that, the percentage was 0.03.
So we've continually each year improved.
I think it's going great. I mean, in regards to, if you're comparing the town of Fontana Dam to another water place, somewhere else, they're looking at percentages based on the whole state. I think looking at you individually as a town and looking at your trend for the last 3 years and it's increasing is positive.
And this letter that you typed out here, this template, does it show that in growth?
It does not indicate the trend because what they're wanting basically is how they're wanting more future rather than past.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Okay.
And so we basically, like you said, Valerie, there's not really much more that you can do that you're not already doing in the town. It's not like you're frivolously spending or anything like that. There was nothing that came to our attention in going through the audit. Everything, I skipped over that part about the fact that, you got a clean opinion, which is the best opinion that you can get for an audit. And nothing looks out of whack in regards to anything that any of the records that we went over. The only flag that there is this percentage that local government is looking at.
And Holly, has everything has continued to grow over the last year as far as like our the LTC requires us to have that 8% in reserves. I think we're way higher than that now, are we not?
Yes, your fund balance available is 100.03%, which is great.
So, I mean, there's not really any other areas that we could improve on other than this, what they bought to. The only area that we can't do anything about is the one that they are insisting we do something about.
Which I think is going to help. Valerie was telling us about the new bank account for the water, and we think that that's really great, so we put that in there in the response because we do think that's going to help the possibility of any misposting. Not that there was any, but just anything that we can do to streamline, reduce any possibility of errors because, hey, we're all human. I mean, mistakes do happen. So if there was something that was coded somewhere into the water that shouldn't have been, then that's going to eliminate that response out of the same bank account. So I think that's great.
Okay. Is there any questions that you guys have, like, concerning an audit? Because it's very confusing to all of us with, because none of us have that kind of background. So, is there?
No, I mean, as long as, if that's the only indicator I think we're raising, we can certainly try to work towards, making some adjustments there, consciously. We can certainly, consider that in some of our decision making, we can get off of that, sort of increased scrutiny from them, that'd be great. I mean, obviously we've got some other challenges that we've kind of discussed with them in the past. And, the big hurdle I think we've got here is whenever we get weaned from TVA and their assistance and we go back to a Lacie situation, how smooth that's gonna go, I think is the big concern at our point. So we're gonna try to maybe do some reorganization on the utility side, see if we can move more towards a traditional model, and that would make us look, I think, more attractive to a Lacie coming in here. But we're very unique, and I know the LGC appreciates that, and
I don't know if they appreciate it, but they acknowledge it.
they acknowledge it. And I think they do appreciate it, but they still want to apply some blanket standards to a not so blanket situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, and that's the other thing is they're trying to do stuff on their end, and I understand it, but it makes it challenging when it doesn't fit the mold. And so we did our best in trying to come up with a response, and like I say, if there's anything you want to add to it, take away, whichever way you would like. We're just sort of going based on what information we took the class that they offered in, I think it was May, and we're just sort of going based on that and what they have posted on their website. But it's a learning experience for everyone involved.
Okay.
And to the new board members coming on, I will say, and we said in the past, I don't know if the same people are there, but when you read these financial statements, they're very large in comparison to like what we talk about here in the meeting, and once you look at them, these are basically presenting them in generally accepted accounting principles and making sure that we take what Willamette does and put it in what makes generally accepted accounting principles happy. And so things can look a little bit different, but we're available for questions if you guys have them at any point, not just at a board meeting. It doesn't have to be that. So we do try to streamline. We opened up that. We had about 8 phone calls from different board members. We do try to get people maybe to get together or something and contact us or whichever way, but we would definitely want to help in any way that we can.
Holly, I do have one question just in regards to ARP funding. We are getting like $2,000. We don't have enough to really do anything major about that, but how do we is there anything that we need to do accounting wise for the audit to make, what do we need to do with that? How do we need to allocate that or allow for that for budgeting?
It is my understanding that that money is very restricted in regards to what it can be spent for.
Yeah, I understand that, but whatever, like let's just say we don't use any of it this year and it's set in our account. Do we have to do anything that would make it easier for you guys to see that?
I know that you wouldn't necessarily want to set up a new bank account, but I would recommend doing it.
Even for $2,000?
If there's interest that's earned on it, it has to be allocated. Otherwise, you have to allocate. Like if say you don't spend it, then the amount of interest would have to be allocated to that account and restricted accordingly. It's honestly like we're unspended.
Yeah, really.
From what I understand from the different counties and the towns that we've talked to, it seems like the pay is the easiest, or what's the easiest?
Well, we were looking at bonuses, like hazard pay or whatever. Yeah, that's probably what we're going to put it towards.
That checklist.
Yeah, it was on, yeah. Yeah.
And if you do that checklist, and that's honestly, that's what they're doing, because they said if I flip that to do anything with it, it's literally, it's so hard. One of my friends, she's a finance officer at the school, and she thinks about a bunch of the money, and she said it's literally like they're looking to go, and they said you can buy a blue unicorn on Tuesday, but it's only between 3 and 4 p.m. That's it. That's how restricted it is. And I was like, okay, well, that's great.
Yeah, really.
So your best advice to us would be to find an acceptable way to spend it and spend it.
Yes. If you can't find that way, then I would recommend putting it in a bank account, so that way that the interest that's earned on it can be accounted, and therefore we can show the government that they've gotten their little few cents on that.
Yeah, because right now we only have like $1,100 or something like that of it, and then we'll get the second payment, I think, this next year.
Half.
Yeah.
For that, then what they're also recommending is that you basically have like a project fund, like you have the higher efficiency upgrade, like you have that project.
Right.
It would be also a project, because so it can go over multiple years.
Right. But,
That's another recommendation.
but it's so little bit of money that what are you going to really put that to, We can't buy a meter, we can't do anything, water, wastewater, which is our biggest loss, our biggest need. So, probably hazard pay is going to be our best bet.
Yes, and look at that checklist that they have on local government. If you have any trouble finding it, let me know, and I'll get it sent to you.
I think I have a list up printed out in there, but yes, I will look again. It's on the local government commission.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, Holly.
Anything else for
And
you guys?
Valerie, just so you know, when we talked previously, you had mentioned about that amount, what that amount would have to be. For this year, in order to get the 16%, the unrestricted cash balance would have needed to be approximately $8,400. gotten you into the 16%.
Okay. That's what that would have been the unrestricted amount for the water, the utility fund.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for looking for that.
Okay, doke.
And no problem. And if there's anything else, you guys let me know. I'm available by phone, email. Nobody's got the email, and if I'm not available, Deborah's here. So we'll get answers to whatever questions you got.
Presentation letter, we don't need to go over that any.
So what that is basically saying that you provided us the information to be able to do the audit. We were able to complete that. You didn't withhold anything. That's literally a form letter.
And that's something that Rob and I need to sign. It's got a place for 2 signatures there, so.
Yes.
Okay.
That was just for the 2.
And it comes back to you?
We need to add the new ones too.
Does it come back to you?
Yes, please.
Okay. All righty.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys, and hope you have a good rest of your meeting.
All right, appreciate your time, Holly.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
One indicator. I'm kind of starting to wonder, is it possible for us to shift a little bit of money out of our
General
Fontana?
fund?
Yeah, and get
I mean, that would be the only way that we could probably, I mean, we could do that, you know, we could put money towards that purpose of doing that.
That's something we can talk about. You know, we can discuss.
There are places that do that.
So we'll talk about that, and that might be something more. We'll talk about that some more, and we need to sign. We'll need to do
We'll
this
need to-
today.
Well, no, not necessarily,
Accept
but,
the audit.
yes, we need to accept the audit, but this we should sign, this right here.
This is going to be.
This is something that, because it's gonna be you, Tiffany and John, and myself and Willamay is who's gonna sign this. And, this is, but what it is another sort of bracing or whatever, however word you wanna use, that we are under this watch because we do not have an appropriate fund balance in our waterways.
It's a response to that indicator,
Yeah.
and maybe ideas to mitigate it.
Yes, exactly, but if you wanna read it over to make sure that there's
Yeah,
nothing we
well,
want to
we
take
don't have
out.
to sign this today,
No,
right?
that doesn't have to be signed. Neither one of them have to be signed today. But we do gotta get it within like a reasonable time,
Gotcha.
so.
Good deal. So moving then, unless there's any other questions on the audit portion. Good. All right, so moving to discussing the appointment of Lacie and Brandon to the council. After hearing some of this stuff, do you still want to be a part of it?
That is a question.
It's too late, get out of here.
There's no escaping once you're sworn in, you know.
And I think it's, you know, a lot of, for pretty much everybody that's come on, there's a certain amount of time where you're just sitting back, observing, taking it in. And at some point, you start to become engaged. There's a topic that sort of piques your interest, something like that. And then from there, you just kind of get, you know, pulled in to, you know, various things.
However, I will say that there is gonna probably be a little bit more involvement from people because we have got to move to a more traditional type of overseeing of our funding and our spending, and to where it's not just strictly on me and Willamay. They want more eyes on this. The LGC wants more eyes. North Carolina is the only state in the United States that has an LGC. The only one. Everybody else can just kind of do whatever, but they govern everything that we do, and they want, and it's all about being transparent, you know, which is fine. Obviously, we're doing what we're supposed to do. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got it cleaned up. You know, that was the best that you can get. So,
But when it comes to money and allocating monies and the whole procedure of it, the more eyes, the better, I think, in their mind. Because the more eyes you have, the less possibility of either willful or unwillful mistakes, you know.
and also there is going to be we're going to have to do a what is it? The ethics. You're going to have to watch an ethics video and get everybody has to do this every year, or every 2 years, whenever the election is, to it breaks down kind of, what is acceptable, like, and what isn't. Most of that does not pertain to us here because none of us have any companies that benefit or in any way, that puts us at any kind of, where it'd be problematic, where you're going to be getting any kind of kickback or refund or anything that's going to interfere with your position as a
If you were
council.
to right benefit from, say, a contract to do some work,
Yeah.
you would kind of have to recuse yourself from decision making on that whole bid process and all that stuff.
And it breaks down to doing the right thing even when nobody's watching, basically. That's kind of what the ethics thing is about.
But it's kind of like the audit. There's a lot of blanket policies that don't really apply to us because we're very, so. Anyway, that's just a minor little thing. I mean, it's important. I don't want to minimize it, but at the end of the day, I think most of us understand, ethics to a degree. I mean, we can't steal money. We can't, do things for our blatant, for our benefit.
We can't try to set up something that you're going to get money from by doing, but none of that really ever applies here.
So, with that said, you guys have any questions about, joining the council? We've tried to explain the general things, but, now would be the time before we swear you, before we appoint you and swear you in for you to ask any other questions.
What is expected of a council member?
Come to a meeting every month, and that's the primary expectation. We'd like for you to be involved in some decision making.
For example, we had back when Tracy was on the board, we had this thing that they were putting together like this garbage committee, because of all of the trashing of the public dumpsters and stuff. And what a good way to move forward and try to streamline that and make it better. Tracy served on that board, so he would go to their meetings when they were. Every now and then there is something that would require somebody outside of myself. I try to take on most of it, but there's some things that every now and then might require somebody. Now, since then, there hasn't been any other committee that's come up that's needed anybody else's involvement.
Sometimes there's some participation at county level that pops up.
We do that because we want Fontana to be remembered, at that state, the county and state level. I mean, sometimes we get funding, that way. Before we came on board, nobody had ever even heard of Fontana for the most part, so back in those days, we went to a lot of meetings in Raleigh. We went a lot of places back then.
The grant funding, I think, was, for
Yeah.
the water plant, that was, you had to, kind of see and be seen there a fair amount. These days, we're not really under that watchful eye so much. We're not out and about quite as much as we used to and probably as much as we should, but we've kind of been more focusing on, internal things. We had COVID, then we lost, the PNG, Avis and the crew kind of pulls out, and we've been it's been kind of one transition after another. Now we're kind of, we transitioned to TVA. Now we're preparing for life after TVA. Really, is trying to get some ducks in a row from a utility standpoint. So the Lacie comes in here and isn't very concerned about the utility situation and the liabilities from a financial standpoint. So,
And just so you guys are aware, we do own the utilities. So the town owns a water plant, a wastewater plant, all the collection lines and distribution lines, and the electric. So that's all in the town's name and under the town's umbrella.
that was part of getting the grant. That TVA had to relinquish that, I guess, ownership and control. So
Those are now our
it was it's a bit of a double-edged sword for them, because now they have a partner that they have to work with as opposed to having, complete autonomy in the situation. So, depending on who you talk to, they might appreciate that or not really appreciate that. I don't know. I'm
But
just
you own the
speculating.
power, but they fix the lines.
Yeah, we have no resources to actually make the fixes. So we basically got gifted a 70-year-old infrastructure.
Make
That
it
is-
viable.
So we're trying to work through a variety of solutions. Hopefully, right now we can, we're working on the collection system, which we'll talk about shortly on the utility update. And we've got some ideas and plans on the water side to maybe take care of some of the losses over there. If we could ever get those two in line, then maybe we could shift our structure to more of a traditional meter billing or something to that effect. Power, much the same way. Although we've kind of signed it, at least for now, back to TVA, and they have unfettered access to the utility system.
So basically what had been going on, like with all this line clearing and stuff, is that they submit the bill to us, we bill the resort, they cut us a check, and then we cut a check to the company. So it's still the town's liability, and it goes through the town, but as everything else, the resort is the only business, so it's still all is funneled through them. The town as a resort is a town.
I mean, I think it's a good way to learn kind of the ins and outs of public government. At the same time, you are always cognizant of the fact that this is an extremely unique situation. It is a town. It is a one-horse town, literally. You've only got one business, and that's it. So you're joined at the hip. So while you're not necessarily another department of the town, sometimes resorts sometimes maybe use it that way because it's simplistic. It's not quite the case from our side, but it gets the point across really. So with that said, are you still in? I mean, it's not that hard. Occasionally we have things come up we need to get some input on. We try to take care of most of it at the meetings. There might be something come up, there might be something you might be interested in.
Yeah.
We've really been pretty smooth sailing after we got rid of, or not got rid of, but after people moved away that were the ones that were more excitable on the board, let's say. So it's been fairly smooth sailing.
Yeah, but before the paper was coming, there were some meetings that were animated.
Yeah.
Uh,
Paper calmed us down a lot.
yeah, the paper does kind of,
Thanks, Charlie.
well, it forces you to choose your words a little more carefully.
Or in some cases, not speak at all.
And be more diplomatic about any conflicts or disputes, differences of opinion, I suppose.
Yeah.
So you think TVA's happy they got a town here?
I think ultimately, the primary benefit is the water plant. There was $3.2 million in grant funding there. There was also I'm trying to remember.
$700,000 upgrade to the wastewater plant, and a $740,000 upgrade to the electrical system.
But one of those grants I thought actually came, was
That
that,
would have been to the Lacie, not TVA, right?
Yeah.
So it's really not TVA's benefit, it's Lacie paying for all this stuff.
Oh, that they didn't pay for them.
Right.
That was through grant money that the town won. So we bought in probably a little over $4 million in grants.
There was no way back then that it was ever going to get taken care of, and the water plant was in such bad shape.
It was
This
on the verge
was
of being shut
Yeah,
down.
this was the best option. So I think at the time, yes, I still think they probably were very happy that happened. To have that available funding because they couldn't afford to pay for it. They wouldn't pay for it.
well, the alternative wouldn't have been to have a water plant that, wasn't functional, and which means you can't continue to do business and the place is shut down.
And then fall back on TVA
Right,
anyways.
exactly. So I think that's indirectly it benefited them, and there's always been a discussion who built it, who was, the landlord of sorts, and was it, it's always been kind of an ongoing discussion about should it really have been allowed to get to this point, because it has a finite life, and we've exceeded that finite life on.
To the point where they're gonna let the new Lacie not pay any money.
Yeah.
Contract, put it back in. But now they changed their mind at that meeting that we were in, and they're saying they may throw in $5 million so that they can get money from a leaser. looking at.
That's good. I mean, I think it's,
So that's the next option on the table for them, because why give up 80 years of anything? I just wonder if they like the town. I'm not. Heard both ways.
I have too, and I don't, I mean, you know, certainly Chad and Mitchell and all of them are I have good relationships with them. Bob and them, I very rarely ever talk to. When all of this discussion and them coming in, they never once involved the town. You know, that was a little disconcerting, there's no doubt. We were worried about that, you know, but when talking with other people, Jim Morris and all of them, that, you know, they have stressed that the town is to be supported. So they're the ones that also agreed to the user fee and to make sure that we were getting that. So, you know, to all intents and purposes, it sounds like they do support us, you know.
the actions say yes, you know, opinions, I don't know.
Bob always makes a point to seek me out and talk to me and ask me how I'm doing, and, you know, but then he goes and starts talking about wines and stuff. So I don't know if he's the town administrator or as a bartender, who knows?
Or both.
But either way, I believe that they agree to our necessity, and we are needed. So, there you go.
Any other questions?
Ready to go?
You ready?
Let's see, so,
Are you all right too?
I
Okay.
guess, on
Taking-
action one, I'm entertaining motions, for the appointment of Lacie to the town council.
I make a motion to appoint Lacie to town council.
Right, Tiff makes a motion, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. And with regard to Brandon, entertaining motions there.
Make a motion to approve Brandon to the town council.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
You can say aye now, because you were already,
That's
you're
right.
voted in.
Yeah, and you're.
You have to say aye.
So, let's see.
Okay, so now we'll go in, all of you have to be sworn in. And I'll swear you guys in, because as a clerk, I am allowed to do that. So, I want to give you all this sheet of paper. And one of you are going to have to share, because I need to read one. You're going to repeat after me as we read this, except in the blanks, you're going to say your name. So, it's Tiff's. Rob, you just share with Tiffany.
Okay.
I'll read off of this. John, Brandon's, Lacey's.
Yes. Come on, maybe I didn't get one.
Oh, no, she's using
Oh.
yours.
Oh, she's
gonna-
using-
She has to read, and then she'll do yours. Your right hand goes on your heart. Left hand on the Bible. You look like you're doing this.
It's a TikTok. Thanks.
All right, let's all stand up over here. Come on, all you guys. All of y'all, come on.
Let's see, where you guys back up?
Well, you can stand over there for a picture after we get started. Let's just, somebody hold that in the middle, and everybody put your hand on it. And then, all right, I'm gonna say aye, you guys say aye, and then your name, and we'll go from there. All right? I do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and law of the United States of America
the Constitution and law of the
United States of America.
and the Constitution and laws of the state of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of my office as council member
of my office as council member
of the town of Fontana Dam,
of the town of Fontana Dam,
North Carolina.
North Carolina.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right, you want a quick picture?
Sweet, I really hope I wouldn't have to sell those big words by myself, so. Alright, really happy we did it as a team, guys.
And then everybody needs to sign this. And I'll bring your phones. And I forgot to remind y'all to bring that, but you need to bring a blank check and I've got to be signed out and fill out some papers. But we'll do that later. Good science.
Wait, see.
No, I don't have to be in it. I'm not swearing in.
Got it?
Well, you just always in there.
Yeah, I serve at the pleasure of the board, so if you want to fire me, you can. Yeah.
Alrighty.
So, okay, you guys all sign that.
Alright, so that was the swearing in, check. So now we are talking about specific jobs, whether it be Mayor Pro Tem. I think in our discussions, I think Jordan was not only Mayor Pro Tem, but she was also Finance Officer, I believe.
Deputy finance.
On the Deputy Finance. On the previous council, I think this go around we talked with John, and I think John wants to, or is willing to, serve the Mayor Pro Tem position.
And what that is that when the mayor is, like if he's unavailable, not here, then the mayor pro tem runs the meeting, kind of like how he does. He gets to bang the gavel.
Let's see, so,
If somebody wants to do the mayor, you can go ahead and.
yeah, we can entertain a motion there. I'm entertaining a motion for appointing John as the Mayor Pro Tem.
I make a motion to appoint John as the mayor pro tem.
So that's the motion, all in favor?
Everybody votes now.
Yeah.
Brandon,
You
you
guys
too.
are officially on. All right, so makes the motion, all in favor? All right. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir.
So the second course of action, the Finance Officer, I think Zell had said she spoke with you, Lacie?
No, I have not actually,
yeah.
I had not actually
No?
asked her about doing it specifically. I wanted to spring it on her, obviously. But,
Since you're already in contact.
okay, so what that will entitle, Lacie, is that this is one of those things like before we've had, like for checks and stuff, you know, we have budgeted things in our budget, which you'll see here later on. And whenever we have to, Willa Mae is our finance officer, but she's in Robbinsville. So in order to pay bills and stuff, I need somebody here to sign checks because you have to have two people on there that can sign. And then there's a stamp that we put on there that says that this is in compliance with things that we have budgeted. And so that would be why I need somebody like you here that would be able to do that.
No.
It doesn't require a lot out of you. I just would have to come up and have you sign some checks occasionally, or you come by or something, you know, that.
That's the primary thing that you
Yeah,
have.
you will have to go over to the bank, United Community Bank, and get on the check signing list. I will tell you as soon as I, if you accept this, then, and I'll relay this to them in the minutes, and then from that point, you'll be free to go there and do that. And we'd remove Jordan. And so then it would be you, Willa Mae, Rob, and myself that can sign checks.
Okay.
But you're here in the village and the most easily accessible.
I am here.
Yeah, so.
Sorry, I didn't realize she hadn't discussed it with you. We
Yeah.
had a discussion, and I thought it had come up maybe in one.
Well, we just thought, if everybody did, it would be easiest for you, and that would be something that you would be good at, as far as finances, you're familiar with that and comfortable with that.
You're basically number two behind Willa Mae as far as the finances go. And we pay her to handle it, so she's gonna
Yeah,
handle 95% of it.
but the check signing and stuff, though, is primarily you and I.
Okay.
But that gives that other set of eyes on that. And we're gonna try and set up a system a little bit different to where hopefully, now, this may not even involve you all that much because Willa Mae's gonna see about coming over here one day a month, or one day a week. And if she comes over, then we can take care of all checks, all bills, that one day, and then you wouldn't even have to be worried about it. But we'd have you in case something unexpected came up, so.
So you good with that?
That's fine.
Entertaining motions for to appoint Lacie as a deputy finance officer.
Make a motion to appoint Lacie as a deputy finance officer.
Thanks, Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Lacie. Thank you so much for that. The last thing on the appointments, I guess, is deputy budget officer.
Which has typically been you. What that person does is helps with the budget process each year, which is kind of long involved. The mayor is usually the easiest person because Rob's been part of it for so long that he knows pretty much the things that we spend money on.
I'm not sure how many years. I think I came on just before Zell came on.
Yeah, and I've been here since 2015.
Yeah, so it was 2014 when I came on. So
And you became mayor in
18,
18, I think. Yeah, probably 18.
It was right before that election when Sarah stepped on.
Yeah.
And I assumed it and then was elected, and I think it's been 3 elections now.
Yeah.
So it might have even 7. I don't even remember when the cycle is. Exactly. This feels like it's been forever though. It's been an eternity. So yeah, I'm cool with that. So unless somebody else wants to take it. Takers. No. So
So now you'll find that that is the case here. Is like when you get a title, nobody else ever wants it ever.
I make a motion to make Rob Hardy the budget officer.
thank you.
Because otherwise they'd have to be doing the whole budget.
No. That actually is a
Because that's my title.
It's
I do that.
It's payroll,
Okay.
and typically Zell does that every year. Or promotions. I think there might have been 1 year there early on. Sarah maybe did it. Or
And I was
early on.
deputy, yeah.
Yeah.
That was that first year.
And then Sarah was deputy for a while. Sarah Locke.
Yeah.
All right, one other, I guess, matter of action is the acceptance of the audit. Right?
Yeah.
We need to-
I'm actually wondering we shouldn't just table that because we haven't really seen, but I mean, she went over everything, so we have to accept it, I think, to be able to sign off on this.
Okay.
Because this is the only 2 things that, or the only thing that we have that would be in any way contested because everything else was clean. So,
So that was the audit right there whenever she called.
yeah, that was the
Well, that was basically, those were the auditors, one of the folks, yeah, and there's a
we get a book.
There's a thick
Yeah.
book that,
Yeah, we
you know,
get, it's like
typically-
48
Have
pages
they
long.
issued that? Have they given it?
They gave me an electronic one, yeah,
Okay.
but I don't have the book yet.
They're gonna send those to us.
Yeah, they'll send those to us when they.
So I guess my question is, should we do this now, or should we wait till the next meeting?
Well, if we don't do it now, we can't sign off on these because this is part of that audit, and we need to get that. I mean, she said we could possibly wait till the next meeting, but that's really gonna be pushing. Remember, the audit itself is clean. Everything's good. Everything's moving in the right direction. So there's no causes of concern. The only area of concern is what she went over there, and that is because of what the LGC is requiring, not because the audit was not clean.
Right, and the only reason I mentioned that is, I didn't know if anybody wants a chance to take a look at it before you approve something. I mean, the bottom
Well,
line
this
is,
here would all be just us. It wouldn't be these guys.
there's a lot, well, as far as the approval of the audit though, at this level.
Yeah.
But we can still sign that without having the approval of the audit.
No, we need to approve the audit, but I don't know that they need to vote on the audit. I think it just, I don't know.
We typically vote on approval of the audit.
Yeah.
But ultimately, do I dig into it and read? I mean, it's accounting jargon is you may not. I mean, it's
You may know more about it.
It's
But
just. I mean, to me, accounting and methods of
It is.
accounting
It's very boring.
can be different than just I made this amount of money and I spent this amount of money and
I think, it'd be different as far as everybody voting to accept it. If she had said, there's areas of concern, there's problems that we just have, but there was no problem. So even if you are signing it or accepting it, you're accepting a clean audit. So, I don't see that there's any, the only time that it would be a problem is if it wasn't a clean audit,
so we're trusting that the professionals did their job is essentially
Right, and that's what we do every year. We trust that they do their job, because we don't know it. So,
We understand the nuts and bolts of it, but as far as how they report it and analyze it, I don't quite get it.
But she told us the numbers. That's basically all we need to know for now.
No specific numbers, yeah, as far as that one problem. And we know how, we got some ideas how to resolve that.
and there again, remember, that didn't have anything to do with the audit itself. This is LGC related, and what they are now requiring, which wasn't required last year, but it is now. So, this is something that is also new to them.
If it passed, I'm
So,
fine.
yeah,
So entertaining motions for that,
I'll make a motion to pass the audit.
if some roll their motion to approve, accept the audit. All in favor? All right. Any opposed? Good. Moving on to, do we want to do the brief overview or?
Well, we kind of already done that, actually, so I guess I didn't have time to get that book put together, not a book, but a brochure thing that kind of,
The handout.
handout that kind of explains everything. I will have that available at the next meeting. So, I don't know that there's truly too much.
Financial report then.
Okay, so we do have a financial update. Everybody can look at this. This here is what we have budgeted in all of our accounts, different ones, and what we have spent, what we have left. Yeah, whenever we get into a low, like the negative, we usually do a budget amendment. And one thing that she told me that I needed to do is our ad valorem tax. We budgeted $10,000, but now that TVA owns all the personal property of the resort, and they pay PILT money to the county, which is payment in lieu of taxes. So they will not be paying us on that personal property. So and then we have we have 3 properties that were annexed in at the beginning when this town was formed. Randy Jordan annexed in 3 properties he owned. Now one is owned by Tracy, one is owned by Kelsey, and one is owned by Sarah. Tracy came in and paid his, Sarah would pay hers. Kelsey has not been forthcoming on that, and they have all approached and wrote letters to representatives to try to become unannexed and not be a part of the town anymore, which is fine. We're fine with that.
Unfortunately, de-annexation is not something
That we can do.
Can perform.
It has to go to the floor.
It can only be undone via, I think, a state bill, a bill at the state level and legislature to de-annex their property from the town. And we explained that situation to, I guess, Kelsey when she,
Took over.
when she was going to buy the house, and we, I think there was some taxes owed even then that were
Well,
resolved.
those were paid when she bought it. The pre-existing taxes were paid in full.
And I think she was told that was the end of the thing, but she was told erroneously. I think she approached Dell, we explained the procedure, she got a bill, she wasn't happy, Ronnie came down, it was a thing. And, Dell was like, I would love to help you, but there's nothing I can do. So finally, somebody, wrote, I guess it was Kevin Corbin.
And Hawthorne guys.
And Nancy Hawthorne.
Cotton.
Wrote their, and I guess Sarah Locke, she voluntarily annexed her property. And I think.
Because she was on council.
And I think she decided, so she's decided to kind of jump in with that. So they're all 3 de-annexed, which is, that's fine. That's their prerogative.
Consequently, though, we have lost just about all of our ad valorem tax, which is what most cities operate on, this tax fund from property. So that right there again puts us right back solidly within the resort is our only means of survival. Not that even if they don't de-annex, then we can survive on $10,000 a year, but still, it's just I've got to make an amendment so it shows that we are losing that stream of revenue, so that it doesn't red flag come on in time next year. So, but other than that, the only other thing that I see, like in our general fund that's negative, is on Property and liability, that is always, we never can seem to get that nailed down to exact science. It always comes in a little bit more than what was anticipated. So, but that's not, that's kind of outside of our control. So that's just an amendment to make sure there's funding. We'll take it from some other item to put in there. And then the other thing I think was maybe utility and maintenance and repair, but a lot of that has been because of all the money we've had to spend in trying to get. There was a lot of stuff like I purchased to try and we had done the old water plant when it was torn down. We had a company that paid us to put their stuff through our wastewater plant, and one of the things was the sludge from the basins at the old water plant. And it contained duckweed, and it choked our system. It constipated our wastewater plant, as Rob so politely put it. So trying to get rid of that has been very extremely costly because you can't just put that. Well, first of all, it won't process through. It gums up everything. So that's what that's what this money was spent on, was trying to get that flowing freely. So anyway. That's the only other thing that's in the negative right now. So,
You got a current bank.
yes, our bank account is in our general fund is $167,655, and in our utility fund is $43,972 for a total of $211,627. So that's what the town. But now, not all of that is unrestricted, but that is still the amount of money we have to operate on. So. We are not like a typical town. We don't have millions of dollars,
Not yet.
Well, we're going to put you to work on that, Brendan. You make money all the time. I think you can figure out a way. I'll tell you. I wanted you guys to have a copy of this. Brandon and Lacie, I want you to look it over there at your leisure. If you have any questions, certainly contact me or Rob. He knows pretty much about it all too. So, just... That'll give you a breakdown of where our spending is going and where our income is coming from.
All right. Any questions on that? Okay. Utility update then?
Well, as you well know, we have started working on this line bursting, which it's all about. It's from the pit stop down to the wastewater plant, and then afterwards, the DOT is requiring us to pave the whole thing. So. It's a chore, I'm sure. I think they've got one section already put in. In the process, there was a manhole going up, like towards the post office from the pit stop. It's always like right there in Yellow Line. It was caved in a lot, That's like a sinkhole. Well, it collapsed there the other day, so we had to do an emergency repair there. But they got all that fixed and patched back up. As a matter of fact, the sinkhole's now gone, so. You don't bottom out when you go through there now. It doesn't even look like there was they did a really good job. I went there today and you couldn't even tell they'd been digging into the road. So these are the things that we've had to contend with on a regular basis, is that this system is so old. From there, we're going to be moving into the village and working on it after we get that done down there, because there's just so many areas that it's not been properly maintained through the years. Somehow or another, it was left. There's not been no root cleaner put through it, because you're supposed to be putting this stuff through this collection lines to make sure roots that are coming in from trees and debris that gets accumulated in there. This stuff takes care of all that, So, but that hasn't been done in the past. So
There's multiple issues, really.
yeah, there's rocks, gravel, there's all kinds of stuff.
The fact that it's a 70-ish year old more system, and then when you factor in that there used to be a lot more units that were out there, and they've been
300 some more units.
So
I don't know if they're capped off.
No.
Somewhere under though.
Precisely, you had the destruction or the phasing out was done kind of in phases. So you had one group for a while that was responsible, and then they disappear, and I think generally speaking, the lessee was given the responsibility of maintaining that infrastructure, and some did a better job than others. And then, so,
As an aside, though, we have ordered some caps, and we've ordered some stuff to put in, the ones that we know are no longer in operation, like up here in the field and up here on this bank. And
So
Dennis
the
is,
road of the-
yeah, across the road over here. Dennis is supposed to be in the process of beginning that. Now, though, I don't know if it's going to be hard for him now for a moment. It's Carrie not coming over as much. So,
well, and so that takes us to that next sort of utility discussion. We had Jason, that didn't work out so good. I mean, he was a bit of a loose cannon, with some other things. He seemed to be, he knew his stuff, but it came with a lot of baggage. So we relied on Dennis, who is an ORC, but we actually brought Carrie, who works she is ORC at Robbinsville. She worked with us in the past, and she kind of came over and on a temporary basis. We have been talking with her about maybe something a little bit more permanent. I think we've got to work some things out as far as benefits and whatnot. We're looking at maybe a restructure, reorganization there, which would then in turn kind of change the way we're kind of doing business really over here. So it's going to be an overhaul to get to a point where we could potentially get her over here. If we could have her primarily looking at our water side of things, that would free up Dennis to focus more because he is also our ORC operator in charge of the wastewater side, the collection side, and the treatment side. So we would love to be able to allow him more attention and time to focus because there are points of concern on both sides that need to kind of be addressed.
and there are state reports that have to be done on wastewater and water butt. And there are areas of concern for them that we have to get addressed. So this is not something that can just be pushed off. It's got to be done. But Carrie has been worked to death because she's also had a guy out over there in Robbinsville. And so doing both jobs is really hard for her. We've got to do something more permanent coming up, whether that's with her or something
We
else.
typically need 3 operators in the summer with all the losses. If we could potentially, after we do the collections, if we could potentially go through and resolve some of the leaks, we're probably losing 75% of the water that we make, just to give you an idea. So we're wasting a lot of money, time, material, treatment materials. If we could dial that back to something much more reasonable, like a 10 to 15%, that would save us. Our man hours would go way down. Our
In
staff
the wintertime, it can wait.
way down. So, ideally speaking, but that takes resources and that's one of those major areas that we have to try to attempt to resolve. Unfortunately, the collection system kind of became an even bigger priority with, some of these lines kind of collapsing over, the summer when we were dealing with that. And we thought maybe we would have, but after we started looking at, we stuck cameras down them and we're having a look at things, you can tell that these lines are,
They've been neglected
they
for
were
a
installed
long
in the
time.
40s, and over time, continuous water and just it erodes things, it breaks things down, shifting of the road because this goes under a road, so you get dynamic loads there, you get freeze thaw, you get all these
Wet
different things
springs.
going. You got wet springs, you got a lot of things that go into it. So this bursting, which is where they just kind of insert a liner and then they pressurize it, and it's a pretty novel concept, and it's going to be a lot more cost effective than coming through, digging it up and replacing those lines. So we kind of, hopefully everything is going to go pretty good and we can maybe apply that same solution perhaps on the water side, on the trunk side, on the main trunk lines. We'll see. That's 2 or 3 steps down the road. I was hoping maybe in the spring perhaps. That might be too idealistic, but we'll see. But ideally, we could get water and wastewater at least serviceable, and on pretty solid footing and get a new lessee to come in here and then we're kind of rolling again. That's the hope. Anything else up?
I don't think so. I mean, blah, 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 blah. No, blah, blah. Don't forget that next Tuesday is the Christmas party. You guys on a date, you're invited. If you're going to participate in Chinese Christmas, everybody has to buy a gift, preferably for male or female.
$25 or something like
$25
that.
limit.
Yeah.
And we'll feed you. Play some
What's
games.
it gonna be? Like a
6:30 is the time.
in what's
In
the menu?
Carolina room, and we're gonna have the prime rib and fettuccine alfredo with chicken, and we'll have a salad, and then he's gonna do. Well, I said the mixed vegetables, but the broccoli or no, what is it? Brussels sprouts. He does that candy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I talked him into doing that. So John will be eating his sweet potato and concoction of
Did you get a
whatever.
special order over there?
Probably.
He said he would take care of it.
Yeah.
We'll get some.
And I think John said to him and to Josh, we're gonna come in for the TDA. He's got some money spending
Yeah.
he wants to do,
Yeah.
and I guess you're
We
gonna
also
be.
do that one. I agree.
Yeah.
Did you have any discussion? Was there anything to report from the meeting?
She'd like to go half and half.
Have an act? Just like what I was saying, right?
Right.
Okay, good.
That's
I
fine.
was hoping that was how it was gonna roll.
Yeah, she's all for it.
She's good at having that.
Yeah, we talked
She
to her
told me
first.
she approved 5,000.
Good.
Yeah.
That's
$10,000 should do quite a bit.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, I'm thinking so. It'll look real nice.
Did John tell you what he's
Initially, she had
overhauling
a
the
couple of
fitness room?
concerns, but
That's something
she
you
had a
guys
couple
can.
concerns, but she said you
Not only
guys
does it
talk
help
about
the
some of the items,
you know
but
the guests, but it
Yeah.
helps the residents too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used it before I came here.
Yeah.
It's gotta be imagined, but hopefully they'll get it all going on.
Yeah.
Be nice.
So
Yeah.
we'll have our TDA meeting that day, and we typically have that at 5. We'll be done hopefully by 6 or so, and then we can
I'll transition
roll
up
up there.
there.
So, any other questions from you guys? All right, next meeting is going to be Wednesday, January 19th, 5:30.
2022.
And yeah, we'll go from there. I guess any need for closed session?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. All right, with that, we will adjourn. 6:47.